Welcome back. This is your host, Nisa Harris, and you are listening to Shomea V'oneh Tehillim and Other Text Podcast, Episode 6. The following is the recitation of the third psalm, aka Perek or Mizmor gimmel. After the recitation, stay tuned to hear more about this Mizmor. Tehillim Mizmor gimmel, Psalm 3. Mizmor LeDavid, V'barcho mipnei Avshalom beno. Adonai ma rabu tsarai, Rabim kamim alai. Rabim omrim lenafshi, Ein yeshuata lo, Be'elohim selah. Va'ata Adonai, Magen ba'adi, Kvodi umerim roshi. Koli el Adonai, Ekra, V'yaneni, Mehar kadsho, Selah. Ani shachavti, Ve'ishana hakitzoti, Ki Adonai yismacheni, Lo ira merivavot, Am asher saviv, Shatu alai. Kuma Adonai, Hoshieni Elohai, Ki hikita, Et kol oivai. Lechi shinei, Rishaim shibarta. Ladonai hayeshua, Al amcha berchatacha selah. David probably wrote this psalm while running away from his own son, Avshalom, who attempted to take the kingdom from him by force, if you look at the source in Shmuel Bet 2:15-6. The situation became so grave that David actually left the walled fortress of Jerusalem and crossed the Jordan River to the Plishtim, his enemy's camp. It was a desperate time. David laments that his enemies are great and they don't trust anymore that he has a place with Hashem. David expresses his faith and trust in Hashem, that he will be his shield, and he calls out to Hashem expecting that Hashem will answer and save him. Taking off from last week's episode, I'm going to ask some why questions. Why is it okay for David to expect that Hashem will help him? Never mind the fact that there is difficulty with the narrative with Bathsheba. Why is it okay for anyone to talk to Hashem this way and expect that he will get them out of whatever pickle they are in? If you say it's because David is his loyal servant and Hashem saves those who bless him, as this Tehillim says, fine. But does Hashem need our relationship? Why would he care to deal with us at all? I know, philosophical stuff, right? But I think understanding these answers is key before continuing with the rest of Tehillim, because David will continue to turn to Hashem for his salvation, and I know personally that I needed to make certain I know where I stood on these points, instead of just, taking for granted that, of course, he's going to ask Hashem. My husband, Rabbi Mordechai Harris, helped me to sort out these points. If we take a step back and remember that Hashem tried a few times with a world that did have Torah and relationship as the blueprint of creation, however, the generation of the flood and the generation of those that built the Tower of Babel, they strayed from God's consciousness, and their moral behavior, therefore, deteriorated to the point where Hashem had to intervene and start the world over. When Hashem comes across Abraham, someone who believes that there must be one God responsible for everything and who seeks to do good and have a working relationship, Hashem chooses Abraham's descendants, those that can learn from his ways, to be those that he can count on to spread good and have a relationship with. Hashem doesn't need our relationship, except in the way that he understands that we need a relationship with him in order to live a good and moral life. In the book Derech Hashem, we learn of the concept of tzimtzum, where Hashem, who is whole and perfect, constricted himself to create a hole in himself and make a space for the world to fit within himself, enabling the space for a relationship. I discussed this also with my father, Harav Shmuel Chaim Halevi ben Esther, who unfortunately is back in the hospital. May he have a refuah shalema. And he pointed out that we would be a different kind of person and have a different kind of outlook if not for our ability to have a relationship with Hashem. For a simple example, when my father was readmitted to the hospital this week, I asked him how he was doing. It was afternoon already, and he answered, "I haven't davened Shachrit yet, but otherwise I'm okay." My father's first focus wasn't on the fact that he got an unexplainable fever in the middle of the night and had to go to the ER, or that this admission to the hospital would mean that he would miss the test that he had eagerly waited for months. It was focused on his relationship with Hashem and how he connects with him. That was on the top of his mind. So, why is David HaMelech allowed to assume that he can ask God to save him during one of the hardest times in his life? He's teaching us that that is exactly what we are allowed to do. No matter what bad we have done or what hard times we're in, Hashem wants you to know that you can still have a relationship with him, because he knows that this is a recipe to make a different kind of person, one who can follow a moral, good path and create positive effects in the world if we continue to recognize that there is something greater than ourselves. Hashem doesn't need our prayers or obedience to Torah, but we as a people are better when we have that in our lives as an anchor. Please stay tuned until after this quick break. Speaking of having good relationships, this week's podcast episode is sponsored by an anonymous sponsor. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement. And with the learning and the Tehillim said to be for the merit of Michal Bat Ilana and Jacob Bat Ilana, to find their bashert in good time and have a good, healthy marriage that will bring a lot of nachat to their family and the world. And if you are interested in sponsoring an episode, please email me at nursenisa1, nursenisa1 Half the sponsorship goes to a tzedakah that we both agree on, and the other half helps to continue the production of this podcast. A reminder for all the requests I have received, I will aim to release them after every 10th episode. Please let me know if you have any requests, and thank you for joining. Please subscribe and share. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that this week's sponsor's tzedakah went to Data Synagogue of Plano, Texas. Thank you again for your support.